Cluck's morning ritual, welcoming the sunrise. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village, the world was still asleep. The sky was a deep, starry black, and the only sounds that could be heard were the soft whispers of the wind and the occasional rustle of the trees. It was the time before dawn, the time when the day had not yet begun but was already on its way. In the heart of the village, atop a tall wooden fence, stood a rooster named Cluck. Cluck wasn't like the other animals. While the sheep and cows were content to sleep until the first light of day, Cluck was wide awake, his eyes trained on the horizon. For you see, Cluck had an important job to do, or at least he thought he did. Every morning, he waited for the sun to rise, and when it did, he would proudly announce it to the world. As the minutes passed, Cluck grew more and more excited. He had done this many times before, but today felt special. His chest puffed up with anticipation as he stared at the eastern sky, knowing that soon the sun would begin its climb over the hills, painting the sky with warm hues of orange and pink. Any moment now, Cluck thought, puffing his feathers in preparation. Finally, the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, casting a soft golden glow on the world below. Cluck could see it, and he knew what had to come next. With a triumphant crow, he spread his wings wide and called out to the world, "The sun rises from the east. It's here. The day has begun. The sun rises from the east. It's here. The day has begun." Despite their indifference, Cluck cherishes his morning ritual, continuing to greet the day with pride. From all around the village, the animals began to stir. The cows lifted their heads lazily from the grass. The sheep blinked sleepily, and the dog wagged its tail as it stretched in the warmth of the new light. The humans, still in bed, remained unaware of Cluck's important announcement. Cluck flapped his wings with pride. He had done it again. He had greeted the sun, and the world was awake because of him. But as he looked around, he noticed something odd. The other animals, the cows, the sheep, the dog, and even the humans, were not all that impressed. They were simply going about their business, stretching, yawning, and starting their day. No loud cheers, no applause. They had been awake for the sunrise before Cluck had even made his announcement. The cow, munching on some grass nearby, looked up at him and said, "We knew the sun was coming, Cluck. It does that every day. You don't need to shout about it." Despite their indifference, Cluck cherishes his morning ritual, continuing to greet the day with pride. The sheep, blinking sleepily, added, "Yeah, the sun rises from the east, like it always does. It's not news." Cluck stood there, stunned. His wings drooped slightly as he looked at the animals around him. He had thought his crowing was a big deal, a necessary greeting to the sun that everyone would appreciate. But in the eyes of the village, the sun's arrival was simply part of the daily rhythm of life. It didn't need a fanfare. Still, Cluck wasn't discouraged. After all, it was true. The sun had risen from the east, and every day, without fail, it would continue to rise from that same direction. Perhaps the world didn't need his announcement, but Cluck couldn't help himself. He loved the ritual. It made him feel important, like he played a key part in the grand order of things. So every day, without fail, Cluck would wake up early, stare at the eastern horizon, and when the sun began to rise, he would give his proud crow. And while the rest of the village might not need a reminder, Cluck would always be there, welcoming the sun as it rose from the east, as it always did, just as he always would.